What's the first game you remember being completely obsessed with? GoldenEye N64. On N64 it was Banjo-Kazooie for me. Incredible game for its time. Old nerd alert. Me too. Duck Hunt. My sister and I were excellent at it by the end. My sister and I used to try to shoot that damn laughing dog every time. The arcade game allows you to do that. Edit. The arcade version is called Versus Duck Hunt if you want to emulate it. Age of Empires 2 had me hooked for years. Loved building empires and strategizing. I don't know if it was famous or not, but I was absolutely obsessed with Age of Mythology. The Sims. The original. 1999. My sister and I used to write piss-pants funny bios for people. We looked at them a couple years ago and they were still funny. Miss those days. I came here to post this. I got it as a birthday present in 2000. I put the game in and started playing it around 2 p.m. The next thing I know it's 11 p.m. and all the lights are off and I'm just sitting in front of the family computer in the dining room still playing The Sims. Gold cartridge The Legend of Zelda. My brother and I made the whole map out of paper and put it up on our wall. Shortly after that, Nintendo Power had the map you could take out and unfold. Great memories. Wait, how did you draw it? Did you play and then plan the map and draw it? Yes, we did it as we played. As we moved to a different screen, we would draw it on an 8.5x11 piece of paper and put it up on the wall. We would make notes on it later where stuff was. That's actually amazing. At the risk of disclosing my age, Tekken. Sonic the Hedgehog. Same here. I remember playing it with my babysitter on the Master System. We always got stuck on the underwater levels. She was way better at the timing stuff, but I got to beat Robot Nick. Those were happier times. Carefree times. Prince of Persia. My brother. Edit. Jordan Mechner, who made Pop himself, has written a lot about the making of the game. There's even a book, I think. Interesting to read his posts. Like how, IIRC. He achieved the smooth, realistic-looking animation by videoing his brother doing moves and then rotoscoping it. And how the black alter ego character was born of necessity due to insufficient memory. Hours and hours playing this. It was so intense. The way he would slide when you would switch directions. The animation was so cool. Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. I'm going to give my age away, but mine was GTA 1. Was top-down game and somehow just hooked me for hours. Needless to say, I've been a GTA fan ever since. GTA 3 for me. GTA 3 was the realest change in video gaming I've ever seen in my lifetime, possibly N64 GoldenEye being a close second. People don't realize just how different it was for a first-person adventure game. Getting to rip people out of cars then run them over. Have sex with a prostitute. Getting chased by the cops until you pull out the flamethrower. Smashing out windows and beating people to death with a baseball bat. Brandish a firearm and laugh as they recoil and ask for mercy. Shit was just a totally different game than anything else that existed at that time. Now every video game has that level of interaction and world building, so it seems blasé, but up until GTA 3 came out there wasn't any of that. Castle Wolfenstein. My father got a copy of the original in the early 80s when it was all words and no graphics. He was a material supplier to Apple in the early days. We had all K8 NDS of cool shit. Ocarina of Time. Came out a year before I was born. First game I remember playing, I witnessed my parents and older brother playing it for years before I could play it myself around 4/5 year old. I remember doing the 3 first dungeons over and over again because as a kid I was terrified of the Lost Woods and the temple there. I could never beat the first Enigma. I kept playing it all my life, but I could never beat it all by myself. Finally, about 2 years ago during COVID, I went back to it and beat the entire game by myself at 24 yo, smiley face. I was so proud. Now I have yet to do the same with Majora's Mask. Minecraft. I played at least 10k hours. Minecraft took a large majority of my middle school and high school life. Lots of great memories, but honestly I could have used some outside time. Roller Coaster Tycoon. The best part of this was always making roller coasters go off of really big jumps and launch off the tracks. Or picking up visitors and flinging them into the sea after making them vomit on a violent roller coaster. Seems somehow sadistic to me now that I think about it. Oregon Trail. The computers in our school lab were hooked up in a primitive land so that when you died, your classmates would come across your tombstone. So we'd name our party after people we didn't like, buy no provisions, kill them off, and write mean things so everyone would see it. Edit. Formatting. Doom on my dad's computer. He taught me to use MS-DOS, and let me kill cyber demons. It was a good year to be 5. I grew up on Doom 2 and Quake. Good times. Command and Conquer. My older brother taught me American military spending in that game. Whenever it said, silos needed, he would give the screen the finger and buy more tanks. He never lost. Command and Conquer, red alert for me. Nothing is better than a screen filled with airfields. High income, low bank, solid rule of thumb for any RTS, winky face. I think Tiberian Sun was the first PC game I ever got really into. That is still my favorite entry in the CNC series. Backyard Baseball. I would always pick Sammy Sosa and Pablo Sanchez and be unbeatable. Pablo Sanchez was a god. Pete Wheeler running the bases was unstoppable. I always picked the kid in the wheelchair. Always. Kenny Kawaguchi motherfucker. Probably either King's Quest or Commander Keen. Commander Keen was by far the best. I played that game every day for years. Diablo 2 made the man I am today. Can comfortably say that LOD was the best expansion/game I've ever played. Sims 1. Man, I remember this game so well because my dad was awesome. So my sister and I had been following any little piece of info/media about The Sims and we were fucking stoked. I'm talking like pure childhood excitement over the game. We had both played/loved things like Theme Hospital and Theme Park, and The Sims just looked amazing. When they announced the specs, our dad broke the bad news. Our computer would not be able to run it. We were devastated. We still followed everything. Analyzing every screenshot, imagining what we would build/do. Release day comes. It was a school day. Nothing to be excited for, mind you, considering it's just taunting us. Dad's got the day off work for some reason, whatever. When I came home, the computer had a blanket over it and my dad was looking very sad. He said he had some bad news and that the computer had broken. I spent every possible minute I could on that, so I was crushed. No Sims and now a no computer. When my sister gets home, she's older than me so she was at a different school. My dad brings us into the computer room to show us what's wrong. He says some stuff, looks real sad, apologizes, says he spent all day trying to fix it, etc. He pulls the blanket off and it's a motherfucking new computer with The Sims running on the monitor. He'd made our family, which was awkward because it only had child and adult and my sisters were neither children or adults, but whatever, and built us a house. We ate tins of beans because none of us could figure out how to cook. I think we were missing surface space/a blender to be able to prepare the food. He'd taken the day of work to collect the new computer that we had 100% no idea about. Buy The Sims, install it and set it up just so we could play it on release day once we got home from school. I don't know how he kept that plan a secret or how he managed to act so well for so long. TLDR, loved idea of Sims. Heartbroken we couldn't play it. Dad pulled a fast one and saved the day. Sorry for the long boring story. I just remember it so well. Edit. Also, my sister is a Redditor and without a doubt she'll see this now it's climbed and she'll identify my Reddit account D. Message me on FB if you do, but don't go through my post history. Edit. Yeah, she saw it. Edit March 22, 14. Sadly my father passed away unexpectedly. Luckily my sister showed him this story and all your comments. He was very pleased to know he was highly thought of on the internet. Best dad ever. Made me cry. Civilization. The original one for DOS. I still remember my first game, where I slowly built up on an island. I had just discovered how to build knights, and was feeling pretty good about my progress. Then Caesar showed up with tanks and mowed me down with some snide remarks about my lack of progress. It was such a good game, and it just kept getting better with each version. I've hated Caesar through 4 more versions of that game. Jerk. The worst part of that game for me was that I never did find a legit copy. So all I had was the bootleg. Don't have the manual? Better save every turn, because if you don't, you just know you're going to get the prove you're the real king DRM questions. For those that don't know, old school DRM was the best. To prove you owned the game, you had to look up some piece of info from the manual. In Space Quest V, for example, they included a faux magazine called Janitor's Monthly, or something like that, in the box. There was a scene about 1/4 of the way into the game where there were about 100,000 possible ways to configure something, and only one would let you pass. The correct config was on the last page of the magazine, printed as part of a fake advertisement. So long as you had the magazine and thought to look there, it wasn't even a puzzle. If you copied the game files from a friend, there was no way you were seeing the last 3/4 of the game. For Civ I, every few turns you would get a screen asking you to prove your lineage or some such, and would have to select which tech was a prerequisite for another, later tech. If you answered wrong, it dumped you back to DOS. No save, no second chances. Scorched Earth / Scorch. Ran it on a really old computer, even for an old game. If I launched a nuke, I could watch the game paint the explosion line by line. The mega nuke meant I could go make a sandwich. If you never played it, it was basically the first Worms type game, I think asterisk. Pick angle and power, pick one of about 50 weapons. No multiplayer of course, at least not with my setup. Asterisk edit. Definitely not the first, see below. Baldur's Gate. A single tear for how long I had to scroll to find this. This was a gateway game for me. D&D, computer gaming, fantasy novels. BG caused a landslide of interest in my life. Every time I play a BioWare game these days, I get a nostalgic twinkle in my eye. They just don't make them that big anymore. Dune 2 and Warcraft. Orcs vs. Humans. So many hours spent on those games as a kid. I was gifted Dune 2 instead of Doom 2 for Christmas as a kid. I was so pissed that I didn't play the game until 4 years later. Biggest mistake of my life. And what was the first game you were completely obsessed with that you remember? Write in the comments. Also, do you want a second installment? Subscribe. Bye. Bye.